What's going on, everybody? It's Dylan of the Bottom Line View here with AC and Kev. We're here to talk about Sunday Night Football, a banger game we had today, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Week 14. This was for the Ravens to get a nice win over their division rivals in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers trying to get this big victory going into New England next Sunday. We had a pretty high-scoring game, a game I didn't think we expected the outcome. 39-38. The Steelers were able to pull it off. The Steelers went out early, got a 14-0 lead, and then the Ravens were able to come back, fight back, and show their adversity to get this win, try to get this win. But in the fourth quarter, the Steelers were on fire, making some big plays down the field. Of course, they had Antonio Brown make some huge catches. And at the end of the day, Chris Boswell, for the fourth straight game, gives them the game-winning field goal. 39-38. I'm here with AC. AC, what's going on?
What's up, dude?
And Kev. What's up, Kev?
Not much. Not much. How are you today?
I'm doing good. This was a pretty interesting week of football action. If you guys didn't check out our Jags-Seahawks recap, live reactions, you guys can check that out. We talked about that earlier today. Thank you guys for the subs. As I know I'm probably going to have to ask or answer one or two more times, Mitch will not be on. He's got some school stuff. This is final exam week for us, so we got to get that done, and then we'll have a lot more NFL content. But I have class off tomorrow, so I am here hosting the stream, and we will get to comments probably midway through discussion and also at the very end of the video. Guys, we had a good game. This was a game we were looking forward to. Two teams that have some interesting paths in the next 3 weeks, and this doesn't hurt the Baltimore Ravens' playoff chances because they have a pretty easy schedule. We'll get into that later. But just overall, as a first opinion, what did you guys think about this game overall?
Yeah, it was one of those typical, I guess, what we've seen from the Steelers is, but I don't think the Steelers played that bad. I think their defense didn't play great, but I thought it was a lot of big plays because I said this last week. I'm not a fan of this Baltimore Ravens offense. Collins was running the ball very well, but I still think, and Flacco had some good throws. They had a lot of big plays, which we've kind of seen against Pittsburgh Steelers defense in the past. Normally, it's the offense not playing great, and then the defense not really playing great, but they're still in games. Today, it was obviously the Steelers' offense was rolling most of the game, but the Baltimore's offense was also rolling. And then when you get into the fourth quarter, Pittsburgh, you just kind of knew Pittsburgh was going to come back because once they scored in that first drive in the fourth, and then they scored again, and then even when they were down 11, they got the ball back and scored right away. You kind of knew that the Steelers at will, and then obviously Baltimore to make it 11-0 scored. It's just Pittsburgh finds ways to win, and I think Ben has not been getting enough credit because everyone likes to rag on Ben, and I know they have the 3 Bs, but he was pretty spot on today and made some smart decisions. Didn't throw the ball away, just took sacks, didn't try to force anything. So give credit to the Steelers because that's a big win. Down 11 points with 6 minutes left. And it doesn't seem like when we look back at this game, I don't think we're going to give as much credit to a comeback like that. In the NFL today, when you're up 11 points with 6 minutes left when Ravens scored, normally it's over. The odds are it's done.
I believe it's only the second double-digit comeback this season within that time. The Saints won.
And then 6 minutes, and their defense started to get a little more hype up to stop the Ravens. The Ravens did some stupid play calling. Steelers get it back. Big throw by Brown. You have one-on-one coverage. And obviously to get and then they kind of screwed up by passing the ball. Ravens couldn't get it done, and Pittsburgh's moving on, 2 loss, and now they get to see the Patriots.
Kev, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a pretty wild game. They got off to a 14-0. I mean, Mitch and I said if they're up 2 scores, there's no way that the Ravens will be able to come back, and they did. And then they pulled away by 11, and a streak was on the line. 217 straight games. Pittsburgh Steelers have been up by 2 scores and have never lost. That was on threat tonight. It was. Steelers came back. Of course, I think I think one of the things is was a little bizarre to me why they were throwing late in with 3 minutes to go. Why they didn't run the ball a little bit more. That was bizarre to me. And yeah, and I think I'm a little confused by the end because the ball did go out of bounds. I thought the clock was supposed to stop at that point. You guys will probably correct me. But you know what? I think give credit Ben. Basically, they stopped running the ball. They gave it to Ben. They put it in Ben's hands. This is his third game with 500 yards or more in his career, the first player in NFL history to do that. And Antonio Brown just continues to get it done. I'd love to know this guy's fourth quarter stats. And I do think, I know that this is going to sound a little ridiculous, but I do think Antonio Brown should be in the MVP conversation. This is his fifth straight game with over 100 yards.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I'll say it. I think he deserves to be more in this conversation than Russell Wilson. I think it should be Brown, Wentz, and Brady.
Well, it's easy to say that now, though, too. Like we do like to go against guys when they have a bad game, right?
Well,
I'm just saying, if Russell Wilson had an unbelievable game, we wouldn't be saying that.
No, but he didn't have a great game. So
no, I'm saying, but I just think that as obviously Brown's been the most consistent besides Brady, in my opinion. Wentz is out of the conversation now.
Because now he's hurt. So
yeah.
Okay, but I think if you look at Wilson's games, well, I guess we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's a lot of interceptions that I think keeps him away. But I think what Brown has done, you can argue how the teams have covered him, but he's still the guy that's getting the ball and making the catch at the right time. And I think some credit goes for that. I think I don't know if this is a huge loss for the Ravens in one sense, but I also don't know if it's – I also don't know. You blew an 11-point lead against your arch rival when you're a team that has reputation on defense and you allowed 39 points to your arch rival. That's kind of interesting going forward too. So I know the Ravens do have an easy schedule heading forward, but I also don't know if I don't know what people are left thinking about the Ravens.
Well, I said this. Yeah, I said this last week, though. I said even if they do make the playoffs, they're a team that is not going to upset anyone. They don't have the offense to do it. Like, look at the guys that they're throwing to, and they're pretty much no names. And a lot of their yardage came off big plays. Yes, Alex Collins was great, which probably if you're a Seahawks fan watching that, being like,
I think it was that was the key. I think
he runs hard.
They abandoned that run game in the second half.
Yeah, they did.
And I'm like, why? You the first half he was making really big plays, and I'm like, there's a sense where you could use this guy to your advantage because Pittsburgh, no offense, didn't know how to stop him, and then they're like, we're not going to use him in the second half.
People say like they ran all over. Like Baltimore still only like 150 yards rushing is really good, but 125 is not like amazing.
No.
Like obviously, like his carries, like you can remember his carries and remember how good he was. But like you said, they went away from it because like his average per carry was unbelievable. You'd think they'd keep going with that, especially in the fourth. And even on that last drive, when they're up 2 points, they're throwing the ball when Collins made that nice run like right away. Yeah,
it was like, okay, so they had it was either a first down incompletion or he ran it for 7 yards. One of the first two plays, he ran it for 7 yards. You're like, okay, short advantage there. And then you just throw it 2 incompletions. Like, that kind of bothered me personally. I can say as much as I want to since I wasn't on the field, but at the same time, you got to make these decisions as a head coach. We're going to get into stats. Ben Roethlisberger threw the second most completions in a game in NFL history tonight, passing Phillip Rivers of 44. The record is Drew Bledsoe, 45 in a game in 1994. He also ties for 6th place in amount of attempts, 66. I thought he would actually be pretty close to this list, but the most attempts in an NFL game is 70. But still an impressive stat line. We're going to get to both. For the quarterbacks, Joe Flacco went 20 of 35, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He was only sacked once. I would say this was probably Joe's second best game of the year. He played really well. This is a guy that we all don't think is very good and has diminished in quality a lot in the last couple of years. His throws down the field are sparse. He throws it very short most of the time. His average depth throw, I believe, is the lowest in the NFL. just very short throws to his running backs. He doesn't have a lot of talent in the receiver core. I get it, but he's not a very reliable quarterback at this time and stage. And Ben Roethlisberger played excellently tonight, 44 of 66, 506 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked 3 times. If I'm a head coach and I see that stat line, I'm going to be obviously elated to see that kind of thing. Ben Roethlisberger's had a couple of games where he's made a couple of bad decisions, but he's also had some really good games this season that I don't think, like AC said, has been looked at as much. That game against Tennessee was very good for him tonight. No exception. He put some pretty good stats up here. Ben Roethlisberger's grade's obviously an A+. He went out there, made some good plays, made some smart throws, like you said. Got to make key throws on third down. Where are you going to go to? Not always relying on Antonio Brown. Obviously, he had a lot of targets, but they went to other key pieces. Le'Veon Bell has been a good receiver target throughout the season, but obviously in the last 2 weeks as well. Jesse James was a big part of their core tonight, so he was able to find good receivers at good times. And for Joe Flacco, he threw it to a lot of people tonight. Nobody had more than 4 receptions for them, and that was Danny Woodhead. But he just wasn't able to get it done down the stretch. What did you guys think about both the quarterbacks tonight?
I saw with Flacco. It's weird. It felt like their offense clicked, obviously with the run game, but a lot of big plays, right? If you look at most of his throws, you know what I mean? Like a 40-yard, 41, 30, 37, 20, 22, 19. You know what I mean? And those are all guys that only had 1 or 2 catches. So I think he was better with big plays, but obviously having 15 incomplete passes out of 35, right? That's not the greatest. He just lost a step. He's like, to me, he's like Andy Dalton. You know what I mean? Maybe even worse than Andy Dalton, but just the way he gets things done. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to win or lose you games. I guess more often than not, this year he loses you games. But the run game was nice. They put up points. It just wasn't good enough. When it came down to it, I think they maybe thought it was in the bag or that things were clicking. But when it came down to it, when you're up 2 and you can't give the ball back, you got to find a way to make a good throw, which he didn't. And then Roethlisberger, I thought this was obviously one of his best games of the season. I've always been a fan of Roethlisberger. I don't like the people calling him a whiner or whatever, because there's been one whine this year, which I think he called himself out on, which I think was not really whining, was just saying, maybe I don't have it, more being tongue in cheek. And look at the turnaround after he said that, right? Like, he's a leader in that locker room. I think guys respect him in that locker room, and he knows how to get the ball to Brown. Everything clicks. He spread the ball out actually more so, like a lot of key third down passes went to different guys. You talk about Jesse James, who I always try to put in my fantasy team. But at the beginning of the season, he got more catches than he haven't, but he was able to make catches. Like, this was the first game. Ben obviously did it with Brown and with Bell having, half of his yards, but half of his yards was 250 yards. So he still threw 250 yards to other people, which is huge, right? And, and obviously with a lot of completions like that, I just think it's a good place for Ben to be trending. And I think what it's great is it sets up a really good game next week. Because if they lost this in a shitty fashion, I don't think it's as hyped, right? Now it's actually probably Patriots fans will never sweat the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they might have a little perspiration going right now, a tiny bit, because if the Pittsburgh Steelers lost, it was probably a lock that New England would win next week. Now, the way the Steelers have been playing and the way they've been winning, obviously that defense hasn't been great, but just that offense is able to get it done, and the defense has been able to make stops at critical times.
Well, and now you got 2 teams that are, well, let's say the Patriots win that game. We're pretty sure they're going to win the Dolphins game tomorrow. These are 2 teams that are 11-2. That's a pretty huge matchup to go up against. And with what Big Ben showed tonight, it would obviously be an interesting matchup. We saw like CBS was building it up as the game of the year and stuff because they don't get the Super Bowl. Kev, what do you think about the QB performances of Flacco and Big Ben?
Well, I think the one thing to mention about the Ravens offense is they move the ball, but they got a lot of penalties too. There was a couple of roughing the passers, a couple of pass interferences that allowed them to move out on the field pretty quick. The Steelers had 6 penalties for over 100 yards, so that was part of it. There was a couple of times Wallace had to knock down a ball as opposed to catch it.
Twice.
Twice he had to do that. Yeah, I think you got to give, I'm not the biggest Ben fan, but you know what? Yeah, you have to. I don't think that they've lost since he said that he doesn't have it anymore.
No, I don't think so. Because I think they were like, those 2 losses came really early.
Yeah.
The last loss they had was against Jacksonville in week 5.
So I think you got to give him credit for, and you got to give him credit. This week, 11 down. Last week, 17 down. You could argue about the officiating or not, but they came back from a 17-point deficit. So Ben is very confident. I think the team is very confident around him. And the other sense, so he's throwing to Antonio Brown. He's got the best receiver in the game right now. Why are you not throwing to Antonio Brown?
Well, if you're any person, you're like, well, I've got the best receiver in the league. Why the hell would I not throw it to him?
But the one thing I'll give Ben credit, and obviously Brown's a great receiver. The last couple of weeks, Brown does a lot after the catch, but that big one on 3rd down, that was dropped in there. He couldn't put a better throw on that. Brown is very good and makes a lot of plays after the catch. But some of these things that we don't look at because we like to see the flash of Brown is that pass. You couldn't have thrown a better ball to Brown on that play. Mm-hmm. Perfectly in stride. He didn't have to miss a beat. Brown did not miss a beat. And how about some of those throws when Brown gets those jump balls in the end zone, perfectly in the corner of the end zone? Roethlisberger's got accuracy and he's got an arm. And obviously, I think Brown is just look at his stats, he could be an MVP. But I just do think that Ben has been playing on a very good level the last couple of weeks.
Well, and there was at least 3 balls tonight where Brown had a 30-yard reception or plus right near the out of bounds area, and Brown had to make those big catches because Ben puts it right there on the money. Now, Brandon Carr sucks, and I've already stated that, but you got to give credit to what Antonio Brown's been doing. Let's talk about the run games here for both teams. Alex Collins, 18 carries, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. Buck Allen, 6 carries for 25 yards. Danny Woodhead, 2 carries for 7 yards. For Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell had 13 carries for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. James Conner had 2 carries for 6 yards. For the Ravens, I don't really, like I already said earlier, I don't really understand why they just left the run game, okay? We talked about how if there was one thing that we could possibly like about the Ravens offense coming into this game was the running game that they had with Collins and Buck Allen. Collins has been a solid running back this year. There's been a couple of guys the last 5 years since Rice that have just been kind of floated into the running back rotation, but Collins has been very well. He's getting nice runs. And in the first half, the Steelers couldn't stop him worth a nosebleed. There was tackles you thought they would get. Some on the sidelines where you're like, dude, how did you not get him out of bounds? Like the same thing they did with the Bengals last week. It was kind of a weird situation that we had here. And in the second half, they're just like, I think we got enough confidence in Joe Flacco to make these throws. Which in the fourth quarter, in a big situation, when you're down, I understand it, but you had the lead. Why wouldn't you use Collins more more effectiveness? And on top of that, in a big situation where you got the run for 7 yards on the first play, you threw 2 incompletions. Don't really understand the game plan there. So Collins had a good night. They just didn't use him in the third or fourth quarter. For Pittsburgh, they didn't really use Bell as a running back most of the time. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 66 times, so the fact that they even got 16 rushes was insane. But Bell didn't really run that much. He didn't even run that effectively. He had a long run of 11, but this wasn't really his game to be shown as a running back. You're not going to get the highlights of a running back here from Le'Veon Bell. He did okay, but he did those couple of short runs where he waits for the offensive line to give him some motion, and then he'll cut in there and get about 5 yards. That's the most I could say out of Bell's running game today. So what did you guys think about the running backs here?
Yeah, I thought Collins was excellent. I'd like to hear what Kevin has to say because he's better than all the backs on Seattle at this point. Mike Davis has some promise, but I don't think he's as good as Collins. And, you know, I guess people got hyped with CJ Procise and Thomas Rawls last season for some reason, and that maybe was the reason why they got rid of him. But Collins looked like a beast. Some of his runs, like even in that one in the fourth quarter, that's 7-yard run. Like, he is a hard guy to take down. And obviously easily could have a hat trick of touchdowns, but obviously they like Allen near the goal line there. So that was good. Like you said, they probably should have gone to it a bit more to maybe waste some time at the end of the game, because I'm pretty sure on that last drive, if they just ran the ball, they were averaging 5.8 yards a rush. So, like, that's, you know, you can run out the clock easily doing that. For Pittsburgh, Bell, like, it was all right. They were averaging 3.8 yards, I think, a carry. But the thing with Bell, 9 receptions for 78 yards. So you can actually,
that's what we're getting.
Those are all like quick passes.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously not runs, but there are, like, you know, get the ball in his hands and see what he does after the fact. So if you think about it, all in all, Bell still had around 20, 25 touches.
Well, part of Alex Collins' success is because I think he's behind a better offensive line than he was in Seattle at the time. So I think that's part of it. And not to say that he doesn't have any ability. He does. And he showed that. I think they have a good 1-2 punch in Collins and Allen. And yeah, it was a little strange how they handled that at the end with 3 minutes to go. I'm trying to figure that out. And yeah, they just basically, the Steelers said, forget it, we're not running the ball anymore, we're just going to the air, and they used Bell in a passing, although he did make that one touchdown he had, that was a really nice run. So yeah, I thought both the running backs were effective in different ways. Bell was effective in the air. Collins and Allen, Collins specifically, was good on the ground, and should have been used more.
There you go. Those are the opinions there. Receiving game. Did the Ravens even have a receiving game? Can we be honest? Did they even have receivers? Mike Wallace, who I've always liked, but I mean, he's not a threat anymore. He had 3 catches for 72 yards. He had a big completion of 40 yards. That was mostly his yards. Moore had 3 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown. Collins, 2 catches for 46 yards. You see, a lot of these receptions were big yardage situations for at least one catch. Buck Gowan had 2 catches for 32 yards. Woodhead, 4 catches, 29 yards. Jeremy Maclin, again, not really a presence tonight, 3 catches for 27 yards. For the Steelers, 2 guys had 10 receptions, but that being Antonio Brown and Jesse James. Antonio Brown had 11 catches for 213 yards. That's the second most wide receiver of the season, behind Julio Jones earlier this year. And Jesse James had 10 catches for 97 yards. Le'Veon Bell, 9 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Vance McDonald, who is a nice tight end presence, 4 catches for 52 yards. I thought for the Ravens receiving game, is there somebody that's playing on? Okay, it just sounds like there was echo. For the Ravens receiving game, is there some kind of echo? Like, is it like you guys?
I'm not hearing an echo.
Can you mute yourself?
I don't think it's. I'm on mute.
Okay, let me see if it works now. Okay, it's working now. So, what the fuck? Like, I can hear myself. I don't understand why, but it's not because you guys are on mute.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter, because it's in my headphones. Like, you shouldn't be able to hear yourself.
I can just hear myself. It's weird. Anyways, I'll try to get through it. If you guys can hear it, I'll try to fix it in a minute. Mike Wallace, I guess is their best receiver threat for the Ravens, but he's not that good. Let's be honest. He is their number 1 receiver threat, but he hasn't been nearly as a great receiver as he once was. A couple of these other guys got some good receptions.
Wait, just before, we didn't talk about it, but I just want to explain to everyone why, like, everyone's going off about that fumble and why it goes out of bounds. I know Kevin mentioned it. I just want to explain to you, because it's a fumble out of bounds, especially with no time on the clock. You can't just, like, say if he was under pressure and he intentional grounded it would be a 10-second runoff. A fumble out of bounds is the same, because if he just fake fumbles it out of bounds to save time, you know what I mean, instead of getting sacked, you get, like, Kev, you get it now, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, then why? If the Ravens don't.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if he got sacked and there would have been no timeouts, the play would have ran. Same with an intentional grounding. There would have been a 10-second runoff, and then the clock keep going. A fumble out of bounds, what makes it so if Flacco is under pressure and about to get sacked, why not quickly just like lateral the ball out of bounds to stop the clock? That's why they do it. So you can't just throw the ball out of bounds backwards or whatever to stop the clock, because a throw that is intentional grounding would be 10-second runoff as well. That's why they do it. Just because Flacco in that position, if he got sacked, it would have been tough anyways. But the Ravens didn't understand that there would be a runoff there, but there obviously is, because that just prevents people from fumbling out of bounds when they can't get out of bounds to stop the clock.
I would, maybe the Ravens would wish they'd gotten your officiating right before that happened, because they didn't know that at the time, which I kind of find weird. If you're a head coach, I think you would have, I don't know, maybe figured out something like that. Harbaugh's been in this game for what, 10 seasons? I don't know. Obviously it's the guys on the field that have to do the production, but Mike Wallace, their number one receiver, not a big fan of. This receiving core didn't do much. But I think it goes down to, they got a couple of big plays. You obviously see 40 long, 30 long, 37 long, 22, 20, 19. They got some big plays, and that obviously helped to their factor of winning this game, was because they made some big plays down the field. Moore's 30-yard touchdown I thought was pretty nice. He was pretty open. Wallace had a nice one where he kind of had to just wait for the pass to be thrown by Flacco. He could have had a touchdown on it, but they just had to wait for it to get it done. And there were some other pretty good plays. I think it came down to Flacco making some nice plays there. For the Steelers, I mean, you've got the number one receiver in the league. Number one, number two. Take your pick between him and Jones, but I'm going to put Brown as number one right now. Just really good catches, making some big plays. Obviously, like you said, those ones on the sidelines are pretty much throws that Ben makes. But Antonio Brown is a great receiver. Obviously, in the fourth quarter, he's going to be a big presence. And he certainly showed tonight that he is a great receiver. Should be in the conversation for MVP in this league. Jesse James had a big game, 10 catches, 97 yards. Obviously, if you wanted to look at Brown more, if more cornerbacks or more people were going to go to the Brown, you have somebody else be in there, be a bigger presence. And having a guy like James was a nice next option for him. Le'Veon Bell has been quite the receiver for Pittsburgh as of late, and that's obviously going to help them out. Even though he didn't have the best rushing game, he did certainly show out in his receiving game tonight. And I think McDonald, he got a couple of big catches, and I think that certainly helps his case because he's been missing the last couple of games, so having him back is nice. The team tonight for the Steelers, they were 12 of 18 on third down. I think that was very – obviously, that's very key. You got to have a good third down efficiency rate. But having other receivers to go to in Brown, other than Brown, in certain situations was a nice bonus, and I think Jesse James might be the key for this one. So, receivers, what do you guys think?
Like quickly with Baltimore, I just don't think they have enough weapons. I do like Macklin, but I just don't think Macklin is better to be on like a secondary piece. Like a secondary receiver, which he kind of is with Wallace, but Wallace just only is a deep threat. He doesn't do much else. I just, like I said this before, I do like how the Ravens play, and I'm not even a Flacco hater. I just don't think if they get to the playoffs, they're going to scare anyone. Maybe if their defense has like a phenomenal game, they might have a chance. And then for Pittsburgh, yeah, Brown did his thing. Like we said, the third down, and it seemed to me in the fourth quarter when there were third downs, their play calling suggested that they weren't scared of third downs, that they were confident in their third down ability, because sometimes Ben would just throw it away instead of forcing it, and then they would bring up third down, or because they did convert a lot, and especially in that fourth quarter. I liked Bryant's game. He only had 6 catches, but they were all short ones, so you obviously could see that they were I think he was like 6 for 33, so that's only an average of not much. So, but still getting those short catches. Obviously, you mentioned McDonald and then Bell. So all in all, it was a good effort by the Steelers.
Kev?
Just want to bring this stat up. Last 4 weeks, Antonio Brown, 39 catches, 627 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Just crazy. I'm not a big fan of the Ravens receiving core. I guess Wallace had a couple of nice plays, but it wasn't anything spectacular. I felt that they were able to move. They moved the ball a lot because of penalties, not because they were in the run game, not because of the pass game. And yeah, I think there's nothing really that you can criticize about the Steelers receivers. They all played really well. They've built off Brown, and he was able to spread. Ben was able to spread the ball around. So, and I think I think the one question, just as I understand Mitch has an exam, but the one question I would be having if I'm a Patriots fan is I don't know how well this Patriots D is going to cover Antonio Brown at this point in time. I think he's going to present a different challenge. This doesn't seem to be – has always been great, but he seems to have raised his level a little bit. And seems to be a bit of a different Antonio Brown, which I think is going to pose a bit of a problem next week.
It'll certainly be interesting to see how they cover him. I don't exactly know how they'll focus on that, but that should be interesting. Let's go to the defense, and then we'll get into some other stuff here. For the Ravens, I think C.J. Mosley had a good game himself. 14 tackles. Jefferson had half a sack and also 11 tackles. I thought Suggs played pretty decently well. Eric Weddle, nice game there. A couple of people that I didn't think were all that great. Kennedy was a couple of people that were shaky. I mean, obviously this defense they gave up 39 of 38 points, so we're not going to give the highest of praises to these defenses. But some people played decently well. I think your best players here were Mosley and Jefferson for the Ravens. And for the Steelers, you had Davis actually had a pretty decent game, all things considered. Cody Sensabaugh, who was getting torched in that Bengals game, had I would say a bounce back game for him tonight. TJ Watt obviously had a sack and had a very nice game himself. For both defenses, this isn't a game I'm going to shine my head high at if I'm a defensive coordinator. But at the end of the day, for the Steelers, they got it done. They made some big plays. They got enough stops to get it done. And obviously, TJ Watt's sacks pretty much saved them the game there. And for the Baltimore defense, I still think this is a defense that you can consider top 5. We obviously brought up that conversation going into this week. And it kind of hurts you in a mental sense because this is a pretty good team. And the Steelers, you weren't able to hold them to anything. You gave up 39 points. But I think mentally you got to work out the next 3 weeks. You got a pretty easy schedule, and then focus on some big matchups in the playoffs if you even want to try to upset somebody. I know AC doesn't think that'll happen, but you never know in this league. So
yeah, you never know for sure.
And like you said, it's not going to come down to the offense. It'll definitely come down to this defense to make that happen. But
yeah, like if they play a team what it's looking like, if they play a team like Jacksonville or the Chiefs, they might have a chance. But they play the Steelers or the Patriots, I wouldn't.
I think they could also play the Titans. I think they could win that game too.
True. But now it's looking like more like the Jags are gonna take stranglehold and win the division.
Yeah, so they would. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, defensively, they're still. I guess they're still decent, but that was tough. And why do you have one-on-one coverage? I know losing Jimmy Smith hurts them, but why do you have one-on-one coverage with Carr and not even a safety over top? Or maybe the safety was just being an idiot because there was a safety there, but you got to get over quicker than that.
Mm-hmm. Bro,
I can't believe that. And it was critical. It was like third and 15 at one point. No, it was like 2nd and 15 or something. They brought it back to be like 3rd and 11. And you just go a sideline fade and Browns just beats Carr off the line.
Carr is not a cornerback I'm going to trust by himself. He needs to have safety coverage come in. Because Carr, I mean, as a Cowboys fan last season, I had to watch this guy be fucking garbage all the way through. I was a guy I was like bye-bye when he was gone, but continue.
Yeah, so and then Pittsburgh's defense, they seem to be to give up a lot of big plays. I think we've kind of seen that every week. Like 40-yard plays here and there, maybe some big touchdowns here and there. They weren't able to stop the run, which normally they're decent at, but that Shazier is a big miss. That's going to be interesting because I do think Pittsburgh has to play a complete game to beat the Pats. I don't think they will beat the Pats. I think, but to play a game, to beat the Pats, they have to play a complete game. And just judging by this game, regardless of how good Pittsburgh's offense is, I'd like the Patriots watching this game. Like the Patriots are going to eat up that defense. Pittsburgh's only chance is to go score for score, which right now I think the Patriots defense is better than Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And I think that's what's going to come down to. But maybe they can play a complete game. If they did what they did in that fourth quarter, like with the stop, I think it was something to do more with Baltimore's play calling than their defense. But they seem to be up for the challenge to get the ball back for their team, which helped them. But in the grand scheme of things, Pittsburgh's defense didn't play very good.
Kev.
Well, yeah, they didn't. It wasn't a great night for them. I think it's obvious they're missing Ryan Shazier, but they did get a clutch sack from T.J. Watt at the end. We already talked about that. Yeah, it's going to be tough next week with that defense. I'm not entirely enamored with it, but at the same time, it seems to me the last two games in the fourth quarter, they have made the plays that they needed to get it done. So I guess they're kind of the version of bend but don't break. I mean, they're not going to make a lot of huge stops, but they're going to make the stops at the right time. That seems to be the philosophy that they're running with. So,
yeah, both defenses were an interesting kind of setup. Not exactly defenses that. I mean, I think these defenses were decently ranked at what they were, but they did not show their best performance tonight. Let's look at both teams' last three games before we talk about the rest of the NFL this week, because I know these guys weren't in here for our live stream. For the Ravens, their hope is now to get a 5 seed or a 6 seed because they cannot win their division. They play the Browns, Colts, and Bengals, which I think is the most fortunate 3-game schedule you will get in this situation. Somehow the Cleveland Browns are favored by 1 point right now against the Ravens. I don't really get it.
It's just it's definitely the Brown. It's the Flash Gordon effect.
It'll change. It'll change.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on that clown.
On Gordon?
He's so awesome. People just love him. But I'm saying, dude, you're 2 games back. Kevin will back me up on this. Why are you wearing fucking sunglasses? You've just been out of the league for 3 years because people thought you had a bad attitude and you were making stupid decisions. And now you're on the sideline after 1 touchdown catch wearing sunglasses? Are you kidding me? Like, I gotta. Who can defend that?
No.
Who do you think you are?
Mitch will find a way to bring back.
Who do you think you are wearing sunglasses?
I just think he's.
What are you doing?
All I'm defending is he's a good.
I'm just saying, but like, what are you doing, dude?
No,
lay low.
I had to deal with a guy in fucking Texas, as a baseball player, Hamilton, that had to do that did that same shit that pissed me off. But yeah.
Like, you're out of the league, dude. Like, in a way, you're kind of a joke.
You are the ultimate hero.
No, but like, yes, you're talented, but you pissed away 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And now you come back and you get 1 touchdown, you're wearing sunglasses on an 0-13 team, 0-14 team. Like, what are you doing? Just chill. Like, yeah, you're a great player. Just chill, dude. Your team's 0-13 and you got 1 touchdown.
Well, he's gonna go to another team, I'm thinking. Does anybody expect him to stay in Cleveland?
I know, but if you want to,
no, I'm not defending. I'm not defending.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to sell yourself to a team, you're selling yourself as the guy with the shades on the sideline.
I don't know who do you guys think he will go to? Because I don't think he's staying in Cleveland.
I don't know how many teams want him. I
agree.
I don't.
I think there's a market for him. I don't think he'll go to a winning team, but there's a market for him. Because he's making. I mean, he's already shown in 2 games that he's still a pretty decent to pretty good receiver. So I don't know. I think there'll still be some teams. But we're talking about the Ravens. The Ravens had 3-game schedule that I think is pretty fortunate for them. They'll still make the wild card. I'm still saying at 10-6. I think they'll win all 3 of those games. For Pittsburgh, Patriots, the Texans, and the Browns, I obviously think they can win 2 of those 3. That Patriots game is going to be a very interesting one. Shazier, a big loss for that. Interesting. But let's get you guys' overall thoughts on this game in the teams going forward. Then we'll talk about some stuff from over this week of football? Or with either one?
I think to me, this is I guess my takeaway now with Pittsburgh. I think they're going balls to the wall for this Patriots game. I do. I think that they're looking at this is if they get home field in the AFC, if they have to play the Patriots, they feel that they'll have a better chance at home. And I think they do. And I think they've been gearing up for this. This is their biggest game of the season. And I think they're going to take this game a bit more seriously than the Patriots. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh winning this game. I do also think that Antonio Brown, the way he's playing at this level, I think presents a different challenge for the Patriots. I'm not saying that the Patriots can't stop him, and I'm not saying that the Patriots are worse, but I do think that that's interesting. And I've always said, and I still think at some point, this loss of Julian Edelman is going to come back and hurt them at some point in time. Like, they have a lot of, like, Brady can toss that ball around, but Julian, I know this from being a Seahawks fan and watching him in the Super Bowl and seeing what this guy can do. This guy can carve up. And I'm not saying that they don't have their other receivers aren't great, but I think at some point, not having Edelman is going to come back and hurt this team at some point. That's my concern. I understand that the Patriots are going to be favored for this game, but to say that this is a foregone conclusion that the Patriots will win, I'm not necessarily convinced at this point.
AC?
Yeah, for the Ravens, they do have an easy schedule because I think Titans have a chance to fall down, and I think Jags are going to take the division, but Titans are going to fall. You got to watch out for the Chargers because the Chargers have an easier schedule. Well, have around the same. I guess no, they play the Chiefs, so maybe it's not as easy. They got to beat the Chiefs. But
they got to beat the Chiefs.
Like, Baltimore should win the next 3 games, but they seem like a team that they could lose to a team they should beat. To me, in the last 3. But yeah, they have if they win out, they should be able to beat wild card. And then for Pittsburgh, I still think you got to give it to the Patriots just because that Pittsburgh defense does scare me a bit. And if Brady does what Brady does, doesn't matter who his offensive weapons are. I do agree with you, Edelman, maybe down the road, because they haven't really been tested in super close games. You know what I mean? The super close games, actually, they've lost. The Patriots. Obviously, no, I guess no, just one. Against the Panthers.
Yeah,
because obviously they got blown out against the Chiefs. But they haven't had all their wins haven't been close. But they don't really need to be because it's not like what we were talking about with the Eagles. After the Seahawks, like they haven't played a good team. The Patriots don't need to play good teams to prove themselves. They've already proved themselves. Patriots are a team that they just want to get to the playoffs, but they do want to get home field advantage. And that's why the Patriots will just be just as pumped to play the Steelers as the Steelers are to play them. But like I said, if Pittsburgh plays a complete game, they have the ability to win. I just think that's very hard to do against New England. So I'll still give New England the edge next week.
For Baltimore, I still think they'll make the playoffs, 10-6. They got a pretty easy schedule coming up, and that'll get them the win there. I think they're secure. Going farther than that, I don't really know what to think about it. I think the defense will help them in certain matchups, but they rely on Flacco. They're not going to go very far. For the Steelers, they made this game a lot. They made their team look obviously complete. They showed that they got a lot of talent out there. You got the killer bees. Let's add the 4th one, Mr. Chris Boswell, who we should be considering as a top kicker in this league, obviously. Getting the job done in multiple situations, 4 weeks in a row. Ben played his best game of the year, which is obviously uplifting to the Steelers' hopes in getting farther along in the playoffs because you're going to need him to make some big throws and key plays. Third down efficiency, they can keep getting that done. They're going to win a lot of games. And using Le'Veon Bell is not only a runner but a nice receiver threat. It's obviously a very good addition for them. So big game next week, 11-2 teams, both of them if the Patriots do win. That's a combined record of 22-4. That's a game obviously we all want to see. That's not the game we're going to be recapping because we're probably already going to be watching something else or doing something else at that time. our live stream next week will be the Packers-Panthers game. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll plug it up at the end as well.
That's not going to be the Patriots and Steelers are not the Sunday night game.
No, they're not. That is the 3:25 game. The Sunday night football game next week is the Cowboys-Raiders game.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. All right, let's get to some comments, which will definitely be we'll be talking about a lot of NFL topics while into these comment section. Benjamin says the Pats are ready for them boys. Meaning the Steelers. Predator says, I guess the Ravens have horrible play calling. Steelers cannot stop the run, just run and win. So, yeah, that's what we kind of talked about with the Alex Collins situation. Jordan says, oh, God, I already know what's coming, but go Steelers. TJ Watt, a legend. Ben throws for 500-plus yards against this defense. What will he do against the Patriots defense on a short week? He ain't going to throw more than 500 yards again. I mean, he'll do pretty good, but not to think he's going to do what he did tonight again would be crazy. Tyler says Boswell is world champ. Yes, he did do pretty damn good. BLV NHL says subscribe to the new NHL channel. Yes, always go to the Bottom Line View NHL channel. Fiddy, John, you got Trent, or not Trent, excuse me, Kev. You got everybody there that you want. Good guys there at the BLV NHL. Coach says AB, wow. Says Hawks without Wilson is mediocre. And then Tyler Jones says Russell needs to remember there's 3 other quarters, not just the fourth quarter. Coach says Ravens scored 38 points. Should they lose? Ravens coach time management very poor. Agreed. We're not even going to get into Kev Norris' comments because they're already ridiculous. Tyler says I feel bad for Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Here, I'll quickly get into that. As an Eagles fan, I guess I'll give my take. Yes. I am. You guys would actually know. I haven't been like the biggest. Like, obviously, I've loved watching Carson Wentz play, but it's not like I've been the biggest homer when it comes to Carson Wentz. What have I been preaching more about this Eagles team all season long?
Week by week.
No, but like what part of the team have I been preaching? In my opinion, has helped this team a lot.
What do you mean, like
the defense?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying I've been more of a preacher of the defense because Carson Wentz has been awesome. He's been an all-star. But I also have been saying that this is the second year it's the second year of a rebuild in a way. It is horrible what happened to Carson Wentz. People say he was MVP. I would still put Tom Brady and even Russell Wilson before this game above Carson Wentz. And it's awful because that's just not good. There's still maybe a sliver of hope that it's just he could be back for the playoffs, but it's doubtful. Saying that, I am someone being an Eagles fan for pretty much my whole life, so close to 25 years. I cheer for this logo, and I believe in this team. This is one of the better Eagles teams we've had in a very long time. Are we Super Bowl favorites now? Are we what we were last week or 2 weeks ago? No, not at all. I would say we're probably still, even with Foles, I think we're probably the third favorite. I'd put Minnesota as number 1 for sure. And the way the Rams played against that Eagles, we got to actually look at that game besides the injury. That was a great football game played by both.
Great game. Yeah.
And I got to give credit to the Eagles by stepping up after the Rams couldn't move the ball after the Wentz injury. Mm-hmm. I guess they quickly went down and scored, and then after that, the Chris Long fumble pretty much was the game, and then the defense stepped up again to force a 4-0. I'll say this: I think Foles is the best guy for the job. He's the only guy that can play the job. When Vic got injured, he was 8-2, and our team wasn't as good as we are now. I think we're going to be able to we still can get the first place. We play the Giants, we play the Raiders, and then we play Dallas. But I don't even think we're going to need to beat Dallas to play. If we at least win the next week, we'll see what happens. Minnesota still has to play Green Bay with an Aaron Rodgers. We hold the tiebreaker on Minnesota. We hold the tiebreaker on the Rams and the Saints. So we still are going to maybe get a first-round bye. Mm-hmm. And say if we get that first-round bye, now we're probably going to have to play a West Coast team, or a sunny weather team or a dome team in Philadelphia in January. So now I'll quickly get to Foles. I think he's not going to make mistakes, but our defense is going to have to play even better than they've already been playing, which I think right now you could easily say that the Eagles have a top 3 NFC defense. I'd say Minnesota is definitely number 1, but I'd say Eagles is a 2-3 defense. I think you could easily put, sometimes the way the Saints have been playing, you can put them up there, maybe not as recently, but I'd say the Eagles are the second best defense in the NFC. I think our skill position players are still good. We're going to have to run the ball a lot more. I don't think Blunt's the answer. I think Ajayi is going to be. But at the end of the day, we're playing with house money at this point. Yeah, it's horrible that maybe the clear chance to maybe get that elusive Super Bowl was with Wentz, but he'll be back next year. People come back from ACL. Tom Brady did it. Gronkowski's done it. He's going to come back and he's maybe might change things, but I still think he's going to be successful. He's only a second-year player. But I'm saying right now, this season, I haven't lost too much hope, but we're playing for house money. And I totally respect people that will say the Eagles are done without Wentz. Yeah, because he was playing like a top 5 player in the NFL this season. Obviously, if you lose a guy like that, you're done. But I do think the pieces around it, hopefully they rally, and we're going to be in the playoffs for the first time in a long time, and we could have even the first or second seed still without this. And my last story before I bore everyone, Jeff Hostetler for the New York Giants in the 1990 season, Phil Simms was 11-2 going into Week 15 and got injured. Hostetler won the last 2 games, beat the Chicago Bears, beat the San Francisco 49ers on the road, and then beat the Bills to win the Super Bowl and never started again. Just that little run. That's what we're hoping with Foles. But you never know. Odds are against us. And what I will say is the Vikings are definitely the favorites, even though they lost. I do like what they do. And I think the Rams are a great team.
My personal take on it is if there's any quarterback that I'd rather have, as the backup to this situation, it probably would be Nick Foles. You look at all the quarterback backups in the league, who are you really wanting to take? And Nick Foles knows the system more than anybody else. Like you said, he took over for Vic in 2013, went 8-2. This is a guy that's thrown 7 touchdowns in a football game before. He's not the greatest of quarterbacks, but he's definitely, he has a mind for what this team has in store. And plus, he's been a backup for this team for what? They got him back in 2016, so he's been there for.
This was his first year back.
This was his first year,
but he was on the Chiefs last year, right? So it's the same offense, and the year before.
Okay, that's where it was. So having a guy like Foles is something that's going to be valuable to them. Going forward, this team's obviously still very built. I said at the beginning of the year, this is a top 5 defense up front in the front 7. Their cornerbacks have shown, their defensive backs have shown that they are competent and can play very well as well. And they're going to have to make some big plays. Obviously, they gave up a lot of points today against the Rams, but going forward, I don't think it's that very difficult of a schedule. And then you go into the playoffs with probably a bye. I'm going to say probably still a 90% chance, unless if they miraculously lose all 3 games. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, you think there's a 90% chance they make the playoffs or get the first round bye?
No, they get the first round bye. They're making the playoffs.
Yeah. They can technically – no, but technically they can still even get a first round bye finishing 1-2 because if Minnesota just loses 1 game, we just have to win 1 game because we have the tiebreaker, right? Like we can literally, if those teams go 2-1, we go 1-2, we have the tiebreaker. Like that was how key this win against the Rams was. That I give it 90% is good.
So they're pretty much going to get it. And they own the tiebreaker obviously against the Rams because they beat them today. The Saints they lost that game against the Falcons, so that hurts their chances in that too. And pretty much going forward, I don't know how far they can get. It kind of comes down to what matchup. I'm still predicting they might go to the NFC Championship game, all things considered. If they play the Vikings, that's going to be the matchup. I think that'll kind of hurt them. But we'll see going forward.
I actually disagree. I think the Saints are actually more so now because I think we saw today I think we saw today. I'm saying, yes, defensively, Foles versus that Vikings defense. Yeah, that's a tough matchup. But I think we saw today Keenum kind of come back to earth a bit. The Carolina Panthers were getting a lot of pressure, and he looked frazzled at times. He didn't look as cool and calm as he usually did. I just want to look at that moving forward for other teams to see what they do. If you can get pressure on Case Keenum, we're talking about, yes, he's played well everywhere he went, but still, it would be a very good matchup. But I do think what I'm hoping is those first 14 weeks, Nick Foles kind of plays like Case Keenum. Doesn't make mistakes, makes the throws, because Foles has a strong arm. It's not like he's a dink and dunk guy. He can throw downfield. So we'll see. But I do think the Vikings are the best team. I just think, as we saw today, I think this was the first game that opened my eyes and being like, wow, Gurley was running all over the Eagles, and normally that's what they're pretty good at.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think it's just because, there's going to be some bad games that every team is going to suffer. And what were they? They've won the last 7 or 8. So maybe this was just a game where they kind of realized their expectations going forward. I still think I think they're the number 1 team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, no, me too.
And so,
if Wentz came out of this game healthy, it would obviously be the Eagles, though.
Yeah. But I think now you're in a situation where if it comes to that game, I think it's going to be between the 2 defenses. I think it'll be a defensive matchup for sure.
But then again, obviously this is a one-off game, and we have to judge teams back-to-back games lost, because that was the worst game the Vikings defense played as well. They were giving up big plays to mediocre receivers and big runs to Jonathan Stewart, who's not the fastest guy.
Yeah, he got his first 100-yard rushing game of the season, I believe. I think it was his first one, maybe his second. Kev, what's your take on this?
Well, first of all, I think people need to also remember Nick Foles was a starter in this league, so it's not like old. And I think it's also a benefit. I mean, this is a terrible injury. Let's just say that, and hopefully Wentz is back as soon as possible, back to playing the way he can play. It's in one sense you can kind of look at this as sort of a preseason-ish before you get into the playoffs. You got 3 games to kind of get some things right. If you're going to make any changes to your game plan, you're going to get the bye. You're 90% certain you're getting the bye. You have a playoff spot locked up. I don't think you will finish lower than 3rd. So you'll have home field. So I think, it's a step down for sure. Obviously, no one is expecting Foles to beat Carson Wentz in any way, shape, or form this year. But you're still going to have that home field, and you're going to have a bye. And history has shown in the NFC that those are 2 big advantages. So we'll wait and see. A lot of points were scored, but the Rams have a good offense today too. So, are the Eagles done? I would say no. I think that they'll be in there. They're still, if not number 1, number 2 on the list right now. So we'll see.
And I'll say too, like I was saying, it's no one's expecting the Eagles to win the Super Bowl now. I think a lot of people. You could have with Wentz, with the MVP, like everything pointed towards them making a run at the Super Bowl because of what we've seen in history. When Cam Newton was playing that well, that team, a good defense, Cam Newton, Super Bowl. Obviously they lost, but then obviously you can see Matt Ryan, good offense, decent defense, Super Bowl. So if we even lose 1 game in the playoffs, it's not going to be like what it has been in most years when we have heartbreaking losses, because it is tough to do what we're going to be doing in the future with Nick Foles. But having said that, some of the throws he made today, that one he made to Trey Burton, obviously it was after the penalty with the made field goal, just to take some time off the clock. He stepped up in the pocket, made that throw. And then on 3rd and 9, that throw to Nelson Aguilar was unbelievable. Like, those are things that he has the capability to do. And he's actually played quite a bit, because when we've been winning, he's played, and he's shown that he can throw downfield. We'll see what happens, but it's not, I'm just happy the Eagles are back in the playoffs.
Well, did you think when Foles came into the game? So he did lead him technically.
Yeah, no, yeah, true. Yeah, he had a nice little drive and only maybe picked up like 30 yards or something, and then there was a penalty, and then they kicked the field goal, but then there was a penalty, and then he took them another 15, kicked the field goal, and then obviously that play when they got the ball back. And then the defense stepped up in the fourth, which is good, because I was surprised with how well the Rams offense were going. And the Rams deserve credit too. They're still a very good football team.
Very interesting things in the NFC standings. A lot of things could change in the next couple of weeks, but that is a couple of things to consider there. Let's talk about one of our other teams on this channel. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Kev, what was the situation going on?
Can we start with the Jaguars first? Can we talk about them first? I know that it's really easy to laugh at Blake Bortles. We have mocked this guy to be the 72nd best quarterback in the NFL. But you know what? He made a couple of really great throws today. I thought he played.
One guy as a joke is saying that. And it's really disrespectful. I don't think it's very funny. To call for an ex-quarterback that wasn't even very good anyways, to be calling Blake Bortles the 76th best quarterback in the NFL when that guy wasn't very good. I'm sorry. I think it's Bush League for a quarterback that was played in the NFL to be calling other guys that play in the NFL right now just to get a couple clicks. I think it's Bush League because he's obviously not the 76th, whatever it is, best quarterback in the league.
Okay, but you know what? I understand that, but other people have disrespected Blake Bortles too. He's not getting a lot of respect. A lot of people consider him the worst starting quarterback.
No, and they should, but that's takes it to another level. That takes it to borderline super making fun of a guy that's just trying to do his job.
Yeah. He made a great throw to Cole. It was perfect pass to him in the third quarter. There was a play, Michael Bennett, it was a terrible play by Bennett, but Bortles got out of it and made some yards. He played really well today. Was he the best quarterback in the NFL? No. But I don't think he's worthy of this laughing at that I've been seeing today. From what I saw him, I thought he played really well. And I thought the Jaguars played with a lot of swag today. I think they played with a lot of fire, and that was great for them. So I think kudos to them. Kudos to their receiver. They got Westbrook as a young receiver. Receivers play pretty well. For the Seahawks, they go down the field. They were able to run the ball. They go down the field, and Blair whiffed again.
How does he still have a job? I don't understand it.
Because I don't think that there's a lot better out there. There's young Woo.
Somebody signed a kicker and has won a couple of games. Why are you still giving this guy opportunities? Is my question. Why wouldn't you move on?
I don't know. They don't think anybody is better than what they have in Blair Walsh. And I don't know if you can say that he was the main reason they lost the game today.
No, but when he missed that field goal from 38 yards, it reminded me of Nick Folk, of how bad this guy is. But continue.
Okay. But Russell threw an interception to Jalen Ramsey earlier, so they actually could have been leading. Davis got in. The second half starts. Wilson gets an intentional grounding, should have been sacked, whatever. Terrible play. Then he throws another interception where Bouye kind of trapped him, and Graham did nothing about it. Jags go back and score. That's another thing I think that we don't give enough credit for this Jags offense is they take advantage of their defensive turnovers and they turn them into points.
And what I will say is that I think I have talked about this before, Kev. You know what it is. Sometimes Wilson has way too much trust and it works out. How many times have we seen those balls that get thrown up and the offensive player come down with it? And it's so frustrating to watch, but it was going to catch up to them. He blindly throws.
It frustrated the fuck out of me
balls.
Watching that game.
He blindly throws jump balls. He's done his whole career, and it pays off crazily 50% of the time, maybe even more sometimes. Today was one of those things where he has no idea where he's really throwing. He knows a guy's in the area, and it's going to be a jump ball. And against top-tier talent, it's going to burn you every time.
When me and Mitch watched this game today. We recapped this game today. 3 interceptions. one of those interceptions was a straight, like, Russell Wilson's at his own 48, I think, and he throws it 2 yards before the end zone, and Bouye catches the interception. And I'm like,
That's the third one. Yeah.
Was that the third one?
Yeah.
It was.
And there was
like
wide open.
it was 2-on-1 coverage. I didn't understand. All three of his interceptions were because of those deep long balls that he just threw, heaved hoed up there. He didn't get it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And then the punt return play for the touchdown. Then Wilson went 3 for 3 in the fourth quarter for 140 yards. Got him back in the game. I thought what they did pretty well is they moved Baldwin to the other side, and they felt, listening to Carroll after, they actually felt that they could throw deep on this team. I give that secondary some credit, but there was some coverage misses that was pointed out as well by the analysts too, but from their linebackers. Davis went down, Wagner went down, Wright went down. Now let's get to the meat of the issue here. 3rd and 11, then they get back, stop them once, stop them. Okay, before that, 4th down, get Gamble, throw to Baldwin. Debate if that's pass interference. On the other end, Richardson's mask is hauled. That could have been called too. You still had a chance to get the ball back. It's 3rd and 11. Fournette runs for 11 yards, gets a 1st down. Game over. Then, and I'm saying this as a Seahawks fan. I am a Seahawks fan. What happened after that was complete bush league. What Bennett did, I know that, everyone loves Michael Bennett. Everyone loves him as man of the year. This isn't the first time he's pulled the shit. He basically tried to break somebody's leg. It was poor form. He should have been kicked out of the game. He should be suspended. If we're going to suspend Gronk, I think we should suspend Bennett. I think that that's not an unreasonable expectation. Carroll had to run onto the field, get Jefferson out of the game. Jefferson starts getting into it with the fan. Throwing things or not.
Seahawks fans. Yeah, I know, because Seahawks fans threw things at Navarro Bowman when his career just ended.
That pissed me. Oh my god! He
needs to. The fact is, Jefferson should just walk to the dressing room, and I think that should be that's a suspendable offense. What happened at the end here was complete bush league, and was complete disrespect to the Jaguars, who played a good game. You just shake their hand, you go on to the next game, and you congratulate them. What happened was bush league. And I tweeted it was bush league. I was embarrassed as a fan. I think if someone suggests Bennett and Jefferson are suspended, they should be, and I would not disagree with that.
Well, Rob thinks he should be suspended for a year. That's almost a criminal charge for trying to fight somebody in the stands. I don't know.
How many people actually outside of Seattle actually do think Bennett's this great guy? I've never really heard that. I think a lot of people think Bennett comes across as very.
Well, he was nominated for Walter Payton's Man of the Year.
Yeah, because the team nominates him, Kev. I'm saying outside of Seattle, a lot of people don't care much for him because he did lie to the Vegas police. That whole thing was a farce. You know that, right?
I actually don't know what that whole story was.
He lied. What he said happened to him did not happen.
Okay,
we got to research this, but he has some character issues. What he said about the Jaguars in the offseason, in the NFL, it's one game. What he said about the ticket prices in San Fran, the guy's an arrogant dude. Who says that? Just keep your mouth shut, dude. He's not a good dude, and I think Pete Carroll's just as bad as Marvin Lewis, in my opinion. He's created this vibe.
Yeah.
He has created this arrogance. He has. It all starts from Carroll.
If you're a head coach, you have to take care of what you're not only what you're doing on the field, but what you're going to be doing to the media, what you're saying to everybody, how you create this, what's the word? This area between your players and the media.
No, it's us versus everyone else. Right. I was talking this with a buddy today, who's from Vancouver too, and doesn't mind the Seahawks. But I believe that Seattle has created this everyone hates us. It didn't start from people hating on Seattle. It started with Seattle being like, everyone hates us. It's us against everyone, which is not really the case. I think more and more people start hating on Seattle because of that arrogance, because they feel like, why are you being arrogant? We don't care about you guys. Why do you think you guys are the best? Why is that? You know what I mean? I've always thought that this organization is very arrogant. especially in the last couple of years as well. When they're winning, it's fine. But when you have that arrogance still, when you're really not doing that much, yeah, you're winning your division, but I just don't see the arrogance. And I feel bad for Russell Wilson because I think
he's a
if
nice
I was
guy.
Russell Wilson, he's a nice guy. And if I was Russell Wilson, I'd get the hell out of there because that is toxic. You're going to go down with the ship, dude.
Well, and
I feel like it's a very – I don't think there's no babysitting going on. Those guys do whatever they want, and Pete Carroll is just along for the ride.
Well, and then you see it like this. It's like, so 2011 when they went 7-9, they were the first team in NFL history to make the playoffs with a losing record, and then they beat the Saints because of that great run by Marshawn Lynch. It seemed like this team was going to be like, well, we're looking for the future, and fans were creating that kind of buzz. And then you see some of the kind of the players that they created with that atmosphere. Richard Sherman, NFC Championship game rant, I found that quite entertaining. But you obviously see the kind of people that they.
But it's arrogant, regardless if it's entertaining.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It creates for great drama, and I'm very entertained by it. But it creates that sense of some people are not going to like this dude because of how he's so out there with this stuff. And then today. Michael Bennett, I don't really get why this man was voted for Walter Payton Man of the Year. He goes out there and tries to fucking rip somebody's legs off, which is disgraceful. And look, that stuff at the end was moused at the palace shit. NBA stuff that just was the craziest fight I've ever seen. Fans should not be throwing. The security for the Jacksonville Jaguars team was pretty pathetic, all things considered. You should have just taken him out. They should have just walked him out to the field. That's also a thing Jefferson should have done as well. But fans shouldn't be throwing.
That's on the player though. That's not like.
I'm blaming it on both, but obviously Jefferson should have walked away.
He has to just simply walk out. That's just the bottom line. Like he doesn't. No fans should be throwing. We agree fans shouldn't be throwing things, and they're going to get kicked out, but. To make this let's look back. He stayed on the field when he was ejected. He didn't really move. He walked. He stood on the sidelines. They should have just walked him right. He should have been walked right out. He wasn't. And there was no reason for him to talk to the fan. Like there's nothing. What did he have to say to the fan?
All he saw was that the people were heckling him, and then he was
it's
like,
it's funny because the first thing thrown at him didn't even come close to hitting him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what got him up and get him closer. And then he got drenched on that second one. But even after that first one, just keep your head down and keep going.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it came across, that whole situation came across of like the bad kid that you went to high school with that like parents didn't care. So it's like they didn't care for being idiots because they knew they weren't going to get in trouble. I felt like that was a little of that. It was like these guys felt so untouchable because they just felt like they could get away with anything. And I just that is really bad. That is so bad. And I listened to the radio on the way home from the game and no one was talking about that incident. They were talking about oh no, next week is a big game, but we're going to still need some help from these teams and that teams. No one was taking Kev. I could great job on what you said because I appreciate that and I think it's needed to be said. I don't think I think you are in the minority of Seahawks fans there. I know you probably see, I'd say 65-70% still are on, let's go on to the Rams, who cares, right? And that's the problem.
And this guy might be suspended for the rest of the season. I think the NFL's kind of pissed at the last couple of weeks with let's think about it, the Crabtree Talib situation that happened 3 weeks ago. You had the Bengals Steelers game last week. Gronk getting the shit. They might be done with all this shit going on with people.
You just can't be doing that with fans, right?
And this is worse, right? Because you're doing this with a fan.
To me, I could care less about Jefferson because he's like a backup type guy.
I get it, but I think the NFL is going to take a stand on this. I think
the real problem. I think they take a stand on Bennett, who's supposed to be.
He might be suspended for the rest of the season, too.
This guy's supposed to be your leader? No, he won't be suspended the rest of the season. One game.
I think he'll get one game.
But I'm just saying, this guy's supposed to be your leader on your team, and he's doing that. Imagine if Aaron Donald did that. Imagine if Fletcher you know what I mean? Imagine if Luke Kuechly, you would never see those guys do that.
Sean Lee. You're not gonna see.
You know what I mean? Like you would never see a leader of a defense do that.
It's sad.
Like
it really is sad.
I just like it was just like a baby. Like they were just being babies.
Like okay, they're in victory formation, and this shit's like on the sideline or like in the middle of the field. Like,
the
what are you
bottom
doing?
line is you stop them in 3rd and 11, you get the ball back, and you have a chance to win. That's it. You didn't stop them on 3rd and 11. It's 3rd and 11. It's a running power move. You know they're going to run the ball. You didn't stop them.
And I think it's funny that Kevnar has not brought up a single mention about this.
But you know what I would like to see too? I would like to know how much you want to bet that Pete Carroll or some of the coaches will probably be like, let's get out of here, no funny business. And those guys still did that. You know what I mean? There had to have been a coach being like, okay, let's just get out of here. And they either disregard or they were told to do that. Those are my two things. The coaches either told them, try to get the ball back, and they listened to the coaches, or they didn't listen to the coaches and tried to do something stupid at the end of the game when they weren't told to.
Well, they're probably going to get a verbal. They're going to get a verbal smackdown because that shit's it's bush league, like you guys said. That shit's should not be allowed in the league.
Yeah, I know, but even after the game, Pete Carroll didn't even talk anything about the Bennett thing. He just talked about his 4-string defensive lineman going in, and that's all he talked about. He didn't talk. No one talked about the Bennett thing on that team after the game. No one.
That's
which I thought was even more bush.
Because Bennett is like he's supposed to be, like you said, the leader of the defense, especially with guys that are out.
One of them. Like obviously they have tons of leaders. Like Wagner I'd put above Chancellor. But now with all those guys missing, and you have all these other young guys that you're trying to build, and this is what you're showing them?
Like, yeah, this is the next core that we're gonna show them. It's not.
But then again, it's still. It always seems, but it's fine. It always seems to go the Seahawks way. They win next week, and all of a sudden they're division leaders, just like that. And Seahawks fans won't give a crap about what just happened. Everyone will move on.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's true.
We did get a couple of comments about it. Obviously, that's why I brought it up. So Predator says Seahawks always start fights when they lose. Rob brings up the fact that Quinn should be suspended for the rest of the year, and then. Coach said, Kev, what was up with that shit after the game? Thought I was watching the Marvin Lewis Bengals team. So I know AC brought that up. Let's get to a couple more comments, then we'll head out of here. People were asking why that 10-second runoff happened. You explained it quite well. Scroll down here. Predator says Gordon will go to the Redskins. They definitely need some receiver help, I'll tell you that much. K Cavalli 1, I think that's how you pronounce it, says the real question is, can the Steelers take away Gronk? I mean, Gronk's been pretty damn good this season. I don't know. That would be an interesting matchup for sure. Nick Knack says Super Bowl predictions. Right now, if I had to put my money on it, I would say Patriots Vikings. If I had to put my money on it. Anybody else here?
I would say Patriots, Vikings. But I do think the Saints, if Kamara comes back, I think the Saints could still have a chance. Plus, you know what? A couple weeks ago, I said Panthers have a chance to win the division.
They do. But they definitely the Saints need everybody healthy. Because when they want, I mean, I didn't get to watch that game, that Saints-Falcons game, but it seems like when, with Marshawn, they were hurting, and then with Kamara, they obviously weren't able to get everybody going. So they need everybody 100% to win. But when they were 100%, they're pretty much on fire.
I'm going to throw a vote in for the Rams.
They definitely show themselves as be a pretty well put together team.
And like I was talking about, though, without, no Giants, no Redskins, maybe not Seattle having a home game, all these NFC teams are in warm weathers or in domes. That's very interesting to me because that's not like playoff. Like, look at it in the AFC, right? It's going to be in Pittsburgh in January. It's going to be in New England in January. You know what I mean? Like maybe even KC in January. It's completely different in the NFC this year in the playoffs. No, yeah, it's either warm weather or domes. Like, because even Minnesota, you always could count on it being cold, but now they play in a dome. So it's interesting that the Eagles are the only team really that can have a home game with actually where the weather could change how teams play.
Rob says if Keenum has another clunker, fans will start calling for Bridgewater.
Yeah.
They could, but
I don't think you go to Bridgewater. I still think you stay with Keenum.
Unless if he throws like 5 interceptions, yeah. Rob says
you're relying on a guy that hasn't played in 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Unless if he has like a fucking like really bad state.
But even if 5 interceptions, I'm still not putting in Teddy Bridgewater.
No, I know, but Keenum's a guy like if he has like even if he has 2 more bad games, now you're starting to think like, wow, we have a shot here. This guy has been. We've seen him play well, but he's the type of guy that probably can put some bad games in a row. Do we, you know what I mean? Like it's a tough decision.
Because in the NFL, it's always about what have you done for me lately, and he can't.
No, exactly. And then I guarantee you, if Keenum starts playing bad, they're gonna get back to be like, at the end of the day, this is Case Keenum. You know what I mean? This isn't Matt Ryan. This, you know what I mean? This isn't like
be like, well, that was a great run that we had here, but we overexceeded our expectations with what we got.
Exactly. And then he starts playing bad, and then she was like, oh, this is what we thought Case Keenum was.
Mm-hmm. And, again, it's been one game. We can't say, 60 minutes of football is going to define what he's going to do next week or the week after.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking even with the Eagles. Like, obviously, it's different with Wentz, but that's why I said, like, talk to me if they lose 2 games in a row. What are they going to do when they lost to Seattle? What are they going to do, right? They won, so it's
every team's going to lose a football game. No. Every NFL team will guarantee to lose one football game. No one team in the history of the league has not done that. So
and now, though, how about when people said Eagles didn't beat any good teams? Now we got the Rams and the Panthers that we beat. Because the Panthers are looking pretty decent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. When Cam plays like that, he's pretty tough to stop.
We might be seeing 3 NFC South teams in the playoffs. That'll be interesting for sure.
And you know who, if they get by, that will beat Minnesota, that matches up well against Minnesota, is the Seahawks.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Well, they need to get healthy though.
No, I'm just saying if they played healthy, like I think, like not.
Yeah, Mitch and I disagreed about that. I think that with the Seahawks match very well with the Vikings, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Fact or fiction? Christian Hackenberg starts for the Jets next week. I think Bryce is already ahead of him on the depth chart, but so I'm gonna say fiction on that.
Yeah, probably fiction.
They're asking who called Blake the 72nd best quarterback in the league. It was Chris Sims, right?
Chris Sims, and here I'll give you his stats. He's thrown 12 touchdowns and 18 interceptions for 3,000 yards and a QBR of 69.1, and his percentage is 58. Blake Bortles has a completion percentage of 59. He's thrown 85 touchdowns and 59 interceptions, 14,000 yards, and his passer rating is 80.8. So better in every single aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just bizarre. Like that's like a super big
like if you say he's a pretty bad quarterback, I get that.
Especially when you were an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's tough. That's tough to do. Like even the guys on NFL Network don't go that far in.
Yeah.
Like they might not like a guy. They can be like, "Nah, he's not that great," which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
But to over exaggerate to say that he's when there's only 30 starters or there's 32 starters and you're saying he's 72nd.
That means he's worse than the backups of every team.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's just crazy.
It's ridiculous. He's not a great quarterback. I've never liked.
No, he's not.
But to go that extreme, like
no, exactly.
And like you said, as somebody that's played the game, like how could you say with the stats exactly. that he's proven up there? Like
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. Let's see here. And Michael Sachs for the last comment says, "Don't forget Aaron Rodgers."
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Especially, I need the Packers to beat the Vikings to help the Eagles out.
Well, I mean, we're recapping that Packers game next week. Packers-Panthers. That'll be a huge matchup that I think will be quite underrated next week. So we'll see.
Yeah.
There's some really good games next week.
Yeah,
all division games. I think except for a couple.
Packers-Panthers, Steelers-Patriots, Cowboys-Raiders will be interesting Sunday night. A couple big games next week. So that's going to do it for us on the bottom line.
That should not be a Sunday night game.
No, it shouldn't.
They should have flexed that out.
I think CBS is wanting to keep those rights though, because that's a huge game. That's obviously the biggest.
Yeah, old school.
So they'll want to keep it on there. And
no, but
plus,
the Sunday game is just like an old school teams that are popular. It's not that they're good, right? It's like
yeah,
still,
and
when
when
you have
they
Cowboys
predicted
and
that,
Raiders, it still like transcends even their record sometimes.
and when that schedule got released, these were two teams we thought had chances to go farther in the playoffs. Because of the success that they had last season. So I see why they did it, but. That's going to do it for this week, for our Week 14 recap of the Ravens-Steelers games. If you guys enjoyed this recap, go hit the like button, comment below your thoughts on this game. Subscribe to The Bottom Line View. We're very close to 3,900 subscribers. We almost got that mark today, so thank you guys for subscribing. Hit that and the notification bell for all of the videos coming up on The Bottom Line View. Next week is when we're going to ramp up more production on the videos because we'll be off of school for a month. Mitch and I will be. And we'll have a lot of more content. We're heating up in the playoffs, so that's good. Tomorrow night, we'll have the Monday Night Football recap between the Patriots and the Dolphins. And then we'll be back up here for Week 15. Also have a topic video tomorrow because I have Monday off. So that'll be up tomorrow for your NFL videos. So for AC and Kev, it's still under The Bottom Line View. Peace out.